Hello and welcome to College Football Throwdown, episode 86. I'm your co-host, Alex Schmitz, and today I'm joined as always by my dad, Peter Schmitz.
Hello there, Husker fans and college football fans.
All right. Hey. For those listening for the first time, this is College Football Throwdown, a college football podcast by college football fans for college football fans. We are a father-son duo who's been doing this for several years now. And we're going to be talking about our Nebraska Cornhuskers and their game against Maryland, as well as the other big games from this week and the upcoming rivalry week that will end off the regular season for college football.
Yes, it's always one of the best weekends of the year.
That's true. It's always exciting. But before we get into that, I believe you have a beverage for us this week.
I do. I have our traditional beverage because, historically, when I used to do this before we had podcasts, even, before the internet, my little son would be sitting there listening to my commentary about reviewing the game, and you'd ask questions and I'd try to answer them and educate you about my strong affinity for Nebraska football and the game of college football. So with that, I'm going to be opening my last Alaskan Amber that I have right now, a beer that I grew attached to on our recent trip up there to Alaska, and it is available here in the lower 48 for those who might be interested in beers. But as ambers go, I think it's one of the best. So here's to an Alaskan Amber. It is a bottle, so you can hear that clinking just a little bit, maybe. There we go.
All right.
And now I'm going to enjoy this. Don't have to work tomorrow, so we're doing this podcast on the right night.
That's right. Yeah, you're at an
Cheers,
Amazon.
son.
You're at an Amazon facility right now.
We are, yes.
Yes. All right. Well, and of course, as that turns out, you of course had to end up working on Saturday and missing what was arguably the best game of the season for Nebraska. So always fun how that works out.
Yeah, I know. It is the way of the world, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how if what we can build on this, and I'll get into that obviously in the podcast after having had the chance to review and watch the tape a couple times.
A couple times.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. Let's just put it that way.
Yep, that is true. Well, if we look back from last week at our predictions for the game, I predicted that we would win 42-31, whereas you predicted a more narrow victory of 33-31. And both of us said at the time we were being optimistic. Being Nebraska fans, of course, we predicted that we would win, but we were definitely not fully confident in that given how up and down our season has been. However, the team clearly came to play. A combination of that and also Maryland making a number of early mistakes that let us get a quick lead early in the game, which we then were able to kind of capitalize on and just kind of ride that momentum through the whole first half. And by then it was already feeling like it was pretty much over.
Right, exactly. And I think that was key to this in terms of, how as we assess and evaluate, this particular football game, it was great to see the kind of success that we had collectively, as for the total game. We needed not just this game, but we need many more like this when we play a team that should be a team we can beat, one that we think we have better talent than we should be able to beat them and beat them comfortably and put in some backups and do those kinds of things. And this was the first time we were able to do that in a long, long time.
That's right. Yep. And the final score ended up being 54-7 against Maryland, with that last 7 from Maryland coming late in the fourth quarter when it really didn't matter anymore. And it was certainly impressive. One thing I kind of noted was that it was more of a neutral site game than an away game for us because
Yes.
there was just so many Nebraska fans you could hear in the stadium.
Oh, yeah. the Go Big Red chants were very clear.
Very clear, yeah. And when I was telling you last night before you watched the game that you would appreciate when Luke McCaffrey got out in the second half, and the fans
Yeah.
were just constantly going Luke.
Luke. Yes. Obviously, that's going to be a thing now. I think they've started something.
Oh
I bet
yes,
that's going to happen in the Nebraska stadium as well. Maybe even this week, for example.
yeah, yeah. Well, we showed something a little different having him at wide receiver and like using him on that trick play that we
Right.
did. Um,
Right.
and I'm not sure
Yep.
how much we'll be doing that against the better teams on our schedules, but it is a little
Well,
wrinkle we can throw in there.
well, and more important than actually doing it is the threat of it, right? That now every time he goes in motion, not only do they have to worry about him taking a quick handoff or even a direct snap kind of situation or whatever, but also him potentially being a guy that gets a quick toss of the ball and then and throwing it down in a flea flicker type of structure. So that's gonna force Iowa's defense to respect that possibility, and that should soften that corner a little bit more. Because if they come up hard to stop that, what do you want to call it, speed sweep that with the motion man, then you throw over the top of them, right?
Right.
So it's going to force them to either roll their defense that way or um, or be soft, one way or the other. And depending on how they choose to approach that, obviously we can call plays to counter that, either running back to the opposite side because now they've rolled part of their defense over to defend that potential, or you execute the flea flicker because they come hard, so it opens some doors, no doubt.
Yep. And we saw in the game against Wisconsin some improved play on our offensive line, and we were looking to hopefully see that continue. And I would say that it did in this game. We were able to get a good rushing game going. We ended up running it 57 times for 305 yards. And of those, Adrian had 94, Luke McCaffrey had 83, and Ramir Johnson had 55.
Wow. Yes. And the thing is that well, and Mills had like 80 something, didn't he? I think 89 or
Uh,
something like that.
I,
I
I
don't remember the exact amount, but
he had a little less actually, but
did he?
yeah, I think it was more like 60 or 70 or something. But
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
but
But bottom line is that um, Luke, when he was able to get in there and play at the quarterback position, showed some tremendous speed, right? And that opens up a lot of doors for us in terms of how we can utilize him from the quarterback position. So, but obviously, I think Coach Frost's intention would be to have Adrian back there for most of the time. But I could see a circumstance where we're trying to make a go of it here to get to a bowl game, then we get Luke to maybe get in there a little bit to create a little change up, right? That they have a designated series or two where he's going to come in and run the offense for a little bit, as opposed to always being wide receiver.
right, that's very true. And as well as offensively, us having some good numbers, we also passed for 226 yards in the game. Our defense held them to 0 red zone opportunities and got 6 sacks against them, and they had 4 fumbles. Now, part of that was our guys doing a good job of like stripping it or hitting the ball with their helmets, that kind of thing, and also clearly a weakness of their team. I think it was mentioned that they've been bad about fumbles all season.
Right.
So a certain amount of this win, we have to kind of credit to them playing badly and being injured with having to go through 4 different quarterbacks over the course of the game. But
Right.
but at the same time, I think we can take pride in how quickly we were able to capitalize early, and the fact that our offense was able to capitalize on the defense's successes, unlike what we were able to do in the Purdue game earlier this
Right.
year.
And we had some friendly bounces too. I mean, like the whole circumstance of the the interception that Dismuke got, where it kind of bounced off a receiver or whatever, and then into his hands, and then on our side, a pass that against many good defenses would have been an interception ends up getting tipped, and
Right,
Spielman catches it in the end zone for a touchdown. So there's 14 of our points early in the game that created, that early momentum for us that were both, really just good, lucky bounces of the ball, which we haven't had much of. So, I mean, we were due. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that we were due. But you know what? That's one of those things where a team needs to not count on that, but believe that they can make those things happen. That they can not count on those things, but just know that good things are going to happen if you play hard and you do all the other little things right and concentrate and be in the moment. Then you're going to be ready to seize that moment when it comes.
Right, because there were a couple things like that in the game where the ball like came out or got tipped, and one of our guys was there, and they had the focus to immediately like grab it and actually hold on to it, and get the interception or the fumble.
Right.
Whereas we've had opportunities like that in other games where our guys just barely miss it, and that
right.
The difference
or aren't even aware, right? Like, I mean, you recall the fumble bouncing around on the ground right along the sidelines, and finally the coaches had to scream at the players to jump on it because they were thinking it was just an incomplete pass when it was in fact a fumble. So
right, but you'll remember because that we had that kind of play out in a game earlier this year, and then against Maryland, they had a pass that went incomplete that fumbled, and one of our guys, our Nebraska guys, immediately jumped on it, even though the umpires had whistled the ball dead. But upon review, it was clear that he had actually fumbled the ball.
Right? Exactly.
Right.
But that's the point is that we had to literally miss an opportunity that could have been there for us earlier in the year in a game that might have gone differently if we had seized that opportunity, but didn't. And that's the kind of little detail stuff that has been one of my fundamental frustrations with our team and specifically our coaching staff. And I'm being critical of them with regard to them teaching fundamentals of playing the game of football. Tackling continued to be a problem, even against Maryland. As I watched the game, a couple of things. Number one, I already mentioned, the bounces went our way. And number two, collectively on defense, it was not the dominating performance that a 54-7 score might suggest to you. They still were running wide open. They still had wide open receivers who dropped balls. A good team would have been able to slice and dice us a lot more than Maryland was. Maryland simply was unable to execute, but the opportunities were there. Their offense was giving them those opportunities, and their players just didn't execute. And against Iowa coming up here, we won't have that benefit. They will execute.
Mm-hmm. That is true. They definitely were some big drop passes, though we did end up limiting them to only 57 pass yards in total.
Right.
And that pressure we were able to get on their quarterbacks, as seen by those 6 sacks, that definitely played a factor in it. And I think them fumbling it so much, after a while that starts to get into your guys' heads.
Right. Mentally. Exactly. Just like it does us. Yep.
Very true.
Or it has in recent years. Yep. But you need wins like this. I don't want to understate how important it is to have a win like this, but it's a win that frankly we should expect. I'm cautious as we look to the next game, in that as I reviewed this Maryland game, I realized that the good fortune we had early in the game obviously had a big impact on how that game then proceeded to unfold. And then in addition, I think defensively, our weaknesses and breakdowns on defense were not exposed by Maryland, primarily because they could not execute. it wasn't all that we did great things. We did some good things,
Mhm.
but we didn't. We still had some major blunders and wide open receivers, and like I said, they were still able to pound the rock at us, and that just frustrates me because I want to see us take a real step. I mean, a solid step forward to where the light bulb goes on for some guys and pursuit angles and tackling technique and some of these fundamentals that I talk about all the time on this podcast start to show up. Wrapping tackles, taking the proper angle, making sure that you're fitting within our system. Like there was one play early in the game. In fact, even the announcers joked about it that, well, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good because I think it was on the Dismuke interception. The reality was is that the fits weren't right on that play, but then somebody came up behind the runner and tackled him from behind and tackled punching through the ball, and the ball went flying out right into the Dismuke's hands. So it ended up being a positive play for us. But the fact was, it was going to be a first down yardage kind of run for them if they hold on to the football.
Right. That's very true. One other stat I took a look at that I appreciated, that's the definite improvement over our past games, is that of our 10 times in the red zone, we scored on 9 of those times, which was obviously good to see. And a part of that was the fact that we did have to settle for some field goals on some of those times, but we actually managed to hit them, which is a nice change of pace. Even
Yes,
and they weren't they weren't crazy long, they were like
no,
in the
29
20s
and
or
29.
30s or something.
No, they were all 29 yards, all 3 of them.
Okay, well, all 29. Still, though, what's notable about that is because Pickering was hurt and not in the game. We had a walk-on player, Waldock, and this was his first time playing, and he performed admirably.
He did.
Hitting all your field goals and all the extra points. So,
right.
Yeah, that was good to see.
Then there was a fourth field goal by another walk-on kicker who got a chance and kicked the last field goal, because I think we had 4 field goals in the game.
Right.
So
that's right, because Luke McCaffrey on his first drive, he had a nice drive down the field, but then he couldn't score, and he was kind of frustrated about that. And we kicked the field goal, and then the next drive he did score.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So, but I'm very excited with what Luke was able to do. I think we saw glimpses of what some of our new young defensive players, Reimers, the linebacker, really flashed in his play in the game, and some of the young defensive linemen did really well, and defensive back wise, I think we saw some players. Now we've already obviously shut some guys down for the season because we're trying to protect a bunch of red shirts. So Scott is still thinking longer term with this deal, and hoping and expecting that the payoff is going to be when these guys get a little bit more physical maturity and have had more reps in the system, that they're going to be more skilled as football players. But my concern is that the beyond the scheme is getting all the little details, the little fundamentals, the fundamentals down. That's the part that I'm yet to see. Offensive line, though, again, like you said, looked really good. There were some really nice examples on the first Derek Mills run for a touchdown. It was on the touchdown play. I believe it might have been our first score. Wow, the blocking on that play was tremendous. Getting to the second level, knocking out some linebackers. I mean, body on a body. It was nice, and big hole. And I'm like, wow, that's as good of a drawn up play as I've seen Nebraska execute in quite some time.
That's right. So, obviously, we've got a big game coming up, our final game of the regular season against Iowa, which will be at home on Senior Day. So that place will be rocking. And it's significant because we still have the chance to go bowling. We've gone to 5 wins, so like we're on the outskirts if we get lucky, but if we but if we really want it, we want to get to 6 wins because
No, we're not getting it if we're at 5 wins. I guarantee it.
okay,
We've got to win this game.
okay, so we got it.
I'll be absolutely shocked if there is any semblance of us being able to get to a bowl game with 5 wins.
Okay,
there are circumstances that from the NCAA that can accommodate that, but even if there are going to be 4 or 5 other teams that are ahead of us in that list. So I don't think you can count on that.
Okay.
So
we got to win this game to go bowling to get to 6
Yep.
6-6, even out our season against a good Iowa team. And I personally, if you had asked me about that Iowa game, 3 weeks ago, I'd be very down in the dumps about it. But the game against Wisconsin and now this game has given me some confidence that our players still have some fight left in them. They haven't, totally given up on the season. And that Adrian is clearly playing better with more focus and vision and all that sort of stuff, which is so important to our offense. So I think it is still going to be a very difficult game for us because, like you said, I will not be making those same mistakes Maryland was. However, I think now that we do have a solid chance to win, and I wasn't confident about that before.
I would agree with your assessment, and you mentioned something in that prompts me to make a comment about Adrian. He still looked to be not where we need him to be in terms of his throwing. I mean, the what would have been an interception turned into touchdown to Spielman at the early part of the game, the second touchdown. That's the kind of throw that Adrian can't make, and he knew it. That's why he, even after the touchdown occurred, it's not like he went crazy excited because he knew that he had thrown a piss poor ball. It was a decision he probably should have never thrown the ball there, and yet he did. And so he was just breathing a sigh of relief. And then in addition, he still missed on swing passes and basic passes. Oh, early in the game, like the fourth play of the game, on the very first drive, we set up a screen. And oh my gosh, if Adrian throws that ball more effectively so that Mills can catch it, he's got 3 offensive linemen in front of him and a very good chance to go a long way on that play. And that's a drive we didn't end up scoring on. So, I mean, the things were there, and that's just another example of our offensive line's improvement. But Adrian still has a ways to go. Now, on the positive side, Adrian ran harder and with more of what I thought was a decisive and aggressive lean than I've seen him run all season. And so that was kind of good to see.
Yep.
And
I was just reminded as you were talking there, the interception he did throw, which was later in the game, also when we were in the right next to the end zone, right about to score, and the guy was open. If he had put a little bit more oomph on it, it was a touchdown. Yes. But he was
absolutely.
But he was throwing it across his body as he was running to the right. He then turned and threw it to the left. So it was a difficult pass to do. And he way underthrew it and just went right into the Maryland guy's hands. So that was a pass he shouldn't have thrown.
But if you're a good quarterback, you make that throw. If you're a great quarterback, you definitely make that throw. I mean, 99 times out of 100, you make that throw. And so that just shows you where Adrian is right now, which it's a combination of, his physical skill set's not there yet, but it's also a confidence thing. I think he's still struggling with confidence. This has just been a very difficult year for him mentally. And so he's learned a lot and he's stuck with it. He didn't go into the tank. He stayed hard at it and kept working, and that's what Coach Frost likes so much about him. And I think that's what his teammates respect about him. And so that's why he's still the man. Because McCaffrey, frankly, showed as much ability as Adrian to make the simple throws. In fact, I would say he maybe even showed the potential to be better than Adrian at throwing swing passes and things like that. Now, where Adrian still has a number on McCaffrey is on the medium and long throws, right? But McCaffrey's still a work in progress as a throwing quarterback. So, I don't know, but bottom line is lots of positives from the Maryland game, but it's not a wholesale. Oh my gosh, the light bulb has come on and the team is very different than it was before.
Right.
We're getting better, but just a little bit incrementally.
Right. Now, talking about that Iowa game, though, what do you think our legit chances are? What do you think the score is going to end up being?
Okay, wow, you're already asking me for that. Well, you know what? You always ask me, so I'm gonna, since it's the last game of the year, I'm gonna flip it on you, and I'm gonna say, first of all, I want you to give me your, 3 to 5. I'll let you choose keys to the game, and then what is your final score for Nebraska, Iowa on Friday after Thanksgiving?
Cool. I would say because I did watch some of the highlights from the Illinois Iowa game, which Iowa won 19-10. But it's worth noting that Illinois was -2 in turnovers in that game, and it was a very field goal heavy battle. Neither offense was really prolific. And Iowa missed 2 field goals in that game. Now they were long, like 47-yard type or 40 plus field goals. So not easy field goals, but still worth noting. So I think the key to the game, as we've seen in these past 2 games, is is the offensive line able to continue to be successful against a big physical Iowa defensive line? Because I think if we can have that success, be able to establish a running game along with our passing game, I think that will be one big key to the game. And I do expect that Iowa will, because I expect that Iowa will score on us. Like you say, kind of exploiting some of the holes in our defense that are still there. So I believe our ability to get the offense clicking, getting a rushing game going, so we're able to control the clock better, enough that then our defense can slow them down enough. Maybe forcing a field. Maybe they have a nice drive, but they are forced to score some field goals instead of touchdowns, whereas we're getting touchdowns, more consistently. I think if we set up that sort of dynamic, especially if we're able to go up early, all those things will contribute to an eventual victory. So those are my 3 keys there.
Okay, okay, and you think Nebraska's going to win? Okay, and so what sounds like you're thinking it's going to be high scoring?
Ish, high scoring ish. I'll say Nebraska will get, it'll be Nebraska 31 and Iowa, let's say 24.
Okay, wow, awesome, awesome. Um, okay, well, I'm gonna give you my shot then. So again, I'm not all bought in on what we saw at Maryland as being, the new Nebraska or anything. But and we still are dealing with some injuries. We've got some Noah is out. Kanabai Noah, the wide receiver, is out. He had a season-ending surgery, and so he is definitely not going to be playing. It sounds like Scott Frost is going to be mum on whether or not they're going to do Robinson Wandell. If we hear about it at all, I'm going to speculate that we won't hear about it until late in the week or on the game day itself, whether Wandell's going to play or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think I think Luke still has one more game. I could be wrong. Um, um, he may be done for the season. You know what? I need to research that. But bottom line is we're going to be thin at wide receiver. Sure would be great if we had Luke, and I'm not sure if we do or not,
Mm.
um, because he played in the Wisconsin game, didn't he? Or do you remember?
I well, I didn't watch much of that game,
Right.
but I don't believe he did.
Okay. If he didn't, then I think he might have one left, in which case that would be a big plus for us. But regardless, we're going to need some wide receivers to step up, whether it's Luke in his temporary role or others. we're going to need some guys that step up, because I agree with you that we're going to need a passing game, because I think um, uh, Iowa's strength is their defense. They are a very salty defensive football team. They're not all that good offensively, however, and so we really need our defense to rise to the occasion and make them one dimensional. Their quarterback is a 4-year starter, I believe, senior, and is pretty darn good. But his wide receivers are just good, not great, and his running backs are just good, not great. You know what I mean? That's not strengths. I don't think as you're evaluating Iowa as a football team. Now their defensive line is outstanding. So with that in mind, I think Nebraska is going to struggle to have the kind of success that we had against Maryland. However, the game against Wisconsin is the thing I would point to and say, if we can find some plays on the offensive side that we can get some first downs like we did against a very good defense in Wisconsin, then we're going to be able to score a few points. If we have to score on big plays, that's going to be very difficult, because Iowa's entire defensive concept is based on not giving up the big play. They just don't give up many big plays. So we need to be able to fool them, or play in front of them and let them play conservative, but make a lot of completions in front of them, so that we move the ball down the field that way. And then once we get in the red zone, that's when the improvement on our offensive line needs to show up, where we execute blocks and we're able to win some of those one-on-one battles and have some success. Now, I think we're going to have some of that success, but I think it's going to be pretty limited. Defensively, for Nebraska, they don't have, or have not shown, the ability to be a prolific running team. So we have got to keep it that way. We've got to shut them down at the line of scrimmage from a running the football standpoint, so they can't occupy the clock, and get a bunch of first downs. And then secondary wise, we need to be opportunistic. We need a couple of turnovers. So I'm going to say Nebraska's got to be at least +1, if not +2, on turnovers. And if we get those turnovers, then we're going to win a close game. I'm going to say it's similar to yours, but I'm going to go 28-24 Nebraska, because we're at home. It's senior day, and I just have this sneaky suspicion that we're on a positive trajectory. It's not a great, huge one, but we're on a positive trajectory. And Iowa, although they're probably a more sound and complete football team than us, I think that the home field matters in this situation. And if McCaffrey's playing, he could be our difference maker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be good to see for sure. Be cool to have him kind of be the hero of the day, in the last game, this very important game for the season.
Right. Well, and if we win it, obviously, then the potential for another 15 days of practice, which is the very critical element of having going to a bowl game, and then we're going to be playing in a much lesser bowl, and then opportunity to go out there and win another game, potentially end up the season with 7 wins. Okay, now we got even more stuff to be building on for next year.
Yep. I agree with you there. I think this has been a tough year for us as Nebraska fans. There have been some doubt about Scott Frost and his coaches and the like. But if he can kind of keep this momentum going, find a way to beat Iowa, and then go on and win our bowl game, and get to 7 wins, then I think we have to look at the season as, a significant step forward from last season, even if it's still disappointing to what our expectations were. We have to look at that as a positive at least.
Right.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing, is that a loss here really puts us scratching our head about where we are, what do we got to do, and yet that's the most likely outcome. If you watch the prognostications that come in between now and game day on Friday, I can guarantee you the vast majority of people are going to be picking Iowa to win this football game.
Oh
But it's
yeah.
in Lincoln, and last year we beat Michigan State in a game where that certainly wasn't the expected outcome, and so this might be our time for the seniors to step up and be their a big hurrah.
Yep. Yep. Let's hope so. So looking at the other games from Week 13, the big game that had everybody's attention was, of course, the Ohio State-Penn State game, an important game in the
Yes.
playoff race. We both predicted an Ohio State victory. I said that it would be 42-21, as you said, 35-17. And it being closer to your score of 28-17 to Ohio State. And of note is that it was quite a bit closer than a lot of people were expecting. Ohio State had
Right.
3 fumbles that
Including one into the end zone.
right, one in the end zone, and the other, I think the other 2 were all pretty close to the end zone too. It was like at the 20,
Is that
30.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh
Because
wow.
what I think was really the key to the game was that Ohio State fumbled at like the 26, and Penn State scored. It was 14-21 then. And then Ohio State got the ball, fumbled again. Penn State got the ball with great field position, and then they were not able to get a touchdown and had to settle for a field goal. So that was 21-17. I think if Penn State had scored there, tied it up, then the momentum and feeling of the game is different from there on out. But they were not,
Right.
but they were not able to do that. And Ohio State was able to kind of salvage themselves back together. I managed to close it out, but as you kind of said before the podcast, one of their more ugly games this season.
Absolutely. I mean, they made enough mistakes to kind of show their human side, and that's what happens when you get into November football. Is all of a sudden things tend to come back to the mean, right? Everybody marginalizes towards the mean because you've got so much tape on the other teams that defenses tend to start understanding what they need to do to take things away, and offenses have pretty much shown what they are, and so there isn't as much to be surprised by. And then the team who is the underdog tends to have a much more free, attitude about going for it. Right? That they all hell breaks loose. They don't care, and they throw everything but the kitchen sink at you, and that's what's going to happen to Ohio State coming up this weekend as well.
Yes, it is a very important game, significant game for us coming from the state of Michigan.
Yes, well, and hugely important to the Big Ten conference. I mean, I got to tell you, for the benefit of the Big Ten as a conference, I'm hoping for a Ohio State victory only because um, we need Ohio State in that playoff. We need a Big Ten team in the playoff. And if Michigan were to pull the upset, although that would be interesting conversation, it would be another example of the Big Ten beating itself up and knocking itself off, and then finding themselves on the outside looking in to the college football playoff.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree with you. For the sake of the Big Ten, it's important that Ohio State wins that game. Although it's worth noting that it is at home for Michigan in Ann
Yeah,
Arbor, with Michigan having kind of bounced their season back a bit since that disappointing loss against Wisconsin. And for as much as, there are all these articles about, like, what's Jim Harbaugh's future at Michigan after that Wisconsin game, how bad they looked there. If he can find it in him somehow to pull out the upset, Michigan fans will all wrongs will be forgiven because they want to beat Ohio State more than anything.
oh, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah. Um, Another interesting game. I didn't get to watch this one, but Georgia played against Texas A&M, and they won, but it was 19-13. Very defensive game. Georgia was only able to score 1 touchdown in the game.
Wow. And did they have? I wonder if they had a lot of turnovers or something.
I don't. I'm sure there were some, but I don't think that was the main thing. The main thing was that, like, both
A&M's.
right, Georgia's defense was salty enough that basically Texas A&M couldn't capitalize on Georgia's offense kind of faltering.
Right. Wow. That's good. or it's interesting anyway. But I wonder if that plays into the Georgia, where Georgia ends up in the playoff vote. Because now we've got Oregon having fallen off the cliff, and I know you were about to get to that, but
Hmm.
so sorry for the spoilers.
Yes, well, and we're recording this podcast on a Monday, so this is before the playoff rankings come out. I don't expect the top five will change at all, but then Oregon was ranked sixth or seventh, I believe. Hit them and Utah were both
Yeah,
right
they were
after.
sixth, and then Utah was seven.
Right, so that will switch. Utah will be six, and then Oregon will fall down because they played against Arizona State and lost in an upset, 28-31. I did watch the recap of this game, and what really impressed me was Arizona State's young quarterback had three very long, like 40, 50-yard passes that got them touchdowns, and they were all like very accurately thrown. It wasn't like the guy was just like totally wide open. Uh,
Right.
yeah, so that was impressive, and he's like a true freshman, I think. So he,
Yeah, I
he,
think you're right.
he might be a threat to look out for.
Yeah. Well, and this is just classic Oregon, right? They just find a way to screw things up every year. I mean, they put themselves in a position and then they just dump. And this was their dump. I mean, their quarterback, who is a NFL future draft pick, all that, very prominent, looked like crap. And just really struggled and threw lots of picks. One really, really bad, glaring pick later in the game that was a huge turner in momentum for the game. And it was like, man, if you're a mature, multi-year starter, with supposedly NFL aspirations, you don't make that pass.
Hmm.
You just don't. And yet he did. So it's kind of classic Oregon over the last 15 years or so that they get close, but then they step on it, and that's what happened today or this
Yeah.
past
Well,
weekend.
correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't they up by like 21 points at one point?
Yes. Well, I don't know. I didn't watch that part of the game, but I know that. Um, let's see. You're talking about uh, um,
Arizona State.
Arizona State was up by 21.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, I think that's true.
So they went up. I knew.
Yeah,
I knew.
Arizona State was up big,
Okay.
and and then Oregon did come back and then make it interesting, but they just when they had their chances, they were moving the ball, things were happening, and they were really getting prolific. It's not like the quarterback had a horrible day, like everything he did was wrong, but when it really mattered, he threw some horrific passes.
Right. I think you're right. That was it. They went up early, and then Oregon was kind of coming back. But then on some of those drives later in the game, they threw those picks, which really killed their momentum, and they weren't able to uh, get it done in the end of the day.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Yeah. So those were the big games from this past week. One other one to mention is Oklahoma played TCU and they won, but it was 28-24. So another kind
Right.
of close game. They still have a chance to make their way into the playoff if they're able to win the Big 12 championship game and then kind of sneak their way in. But their loss against K State is going to be hard to get past.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Um, one I just thought about this back to that Ohio State game. What's your opinion on Chase Young? A lot of people are saying like he's the best college football player in the country with just how good he's been on defense. He got a lot of sacks and big tackles for loss in the game against Penn State. And some people are looking at him for potentially winning the Heisman. But what's your kind of take on him?
Well, I agree that I think he's a freak of nature. I mean, the guy is practically unblocked. He really is good. Now, I would love it if he got the Heisman. I doubt he's going to. But having all the front runners, quarterbacks, traditional pretty boys that usually get this award, not doing as well. I mean, even Clemson's quarterback has had some off days that have kind of put him in that category of, yeah, maybe, type of thing. So there's no one that's ran away and hidden with it.
Well, there's
But I think the
Burrows.
winner would be right. I think the winner would be Burrows if he ultimately, although he's had some games where he struggled a little bit, but yeah, if they continue to win and if LSU ends up winning the SEC, I think that Burrows is the winner. But if not him, then I think Jonathan Taylor would be my second, and then I say that the Ohio State defensive end comes in third.
Chase Young, yeah.
Chase Young, thank you.
Yep. All right. And so we've already talked about some of the games, but obviously with rivalry week coming up and the end of the regular season, there are some big games. We talked a bit about the Ohio State-Michigan game. I definitely think it's scary for Ohio State, considering they're coming off of a less dominant win than you might expect from them, and it's at home for Michigan, and they're clearly hungry for it. But at the same time, Ohio State, at least in the recent years, Ohio State has kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like my perception is that the past few years they've kind of dominated Michigan, even when Michigan was highly regarded and everything. Now that was obviously with Urban Meyer as their head coach, so there's a bit of a different dynamic there. But they always seem to play well and bring their focus to those games. So I'm going to predict an Ohio State victory, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there is a chance that Michigan could make it interesting, but I actually think that Ohio State is just that much better. And I think Ohio State's probably the worst thing that could have happened to Michigan was to have Ohio State struggle a little bit against Penn State, because I think those coaches have their attention now at Ohio State. They have the players' attention, and I have a feeling that Ohio State's going to look very crisp in this game and will end up winning fairly comfortably. I'm going to say they're going to win by about 3 scores. So I'm going to say like 42-21.
Wow. Yeah, that is a big score lead.
No, I just, I'm not saying that Michigan can't win it. I agree with the things that you're saying, and I think the same thing, that Ohio State showed themselves to be a little
vulnerable.
What do you want to call it? Vulnerable, yeah, human. But I think that that's going to serve as a wake-up call. I don't think you're going to see Ohio State struggle like that 2 weeks in a row with turning the ball over and that sort of stuff. So I have a feeling that that they're going to do that. And the bottom line is that Ohio State, has an offensive scheme that has given Michigan fits, like you said. I mean, Brown, the defensive coordinator at Michigan, is everybody's genius until he plays against Ohio State, and then he gets lit up. And I think that trend probably continues.
All right. Well, I'm going to predict a little bit closer. I'm going to say 35 Ohio State, 24 Michigan. So I think it'll be a good battle. Should be a fun game to watch. But in the end, Ohio State's going to win. And even if they lose against Michigan, they will still play in the Big Ten championship game. But obviously, that would have tough implications for their playoff chances. So for that purpose, they still need to win this game.
Exactly.
All right. And then talk about the other side of the Big Ten. We've got 2 good storylines going on in the Big Ten. We've got Wisconsin playing against Minnesota. It is at home for Minnesota, which obviously helps them. And if Minnesota were to lose, then they would go down to having 2 losses like Wisconsin, and Wisconsin would have the head-to-head, so Wisconsin would go. So this game is playing for who's going to be the champion of the West. Now, what are your thoughts on this game?
Okay. You know what? I'm going to tell you that Wisconsin is the king of the hill. Has been for many years. Last year notwithstanding. And even though it's at Minnesota, I think Minnesota started feeling the pressure of being the front in the game against
Iowa.
Iowa, which they lost. Okay, and now they're going to feel that again at home. They're going to have a home crowd that's really rooting them on, so they're going to have lots of positive energy and stuff. But I just wonder about those guys. It's senior day for a lot of very important contributors that are seniors this year for Minnesota, and so lots of things that are going their way. But Wisconsin has a chip on their shoulder. They have a Heisman Trophy running back. Um, I'm going to go with Wisconsin here in a little bit of a mild upset at this point, and say that Wisconsin wins in a slugfest, like let's say 20. No, let's go 35-28.
35-28 for them. All right.
For
I'm going
Wisconsin.
to say I'm going to go a little differently. I think it will be a close game, a good
Yeah.
game. But it's worth noting that when when Minnesota played against Penn State, which they won in a big upset that kind of put them on the national map for everybody, that was at home in Minnesota, and then they went on the road against Iowa and lost, but still in a close game. The score was 23-19. So I think that the home field advantage is going to be significant. There's no doubt that there's going to be plenty of fans and plenty of energy in that stadium for this kind of historic opportunity for their football program. So I think that is going to be the edge that they need to win. So I will reverse your score. I'll say 35 Minnesota, 28 Wisconsin.
Well, I will tell you, I'm tired of Wisconsin. So even though I'm an alumnus of the University of Wisconsin, so I'm going to tell you that I want Minnesota to win that game, but I just have this feeling that Wisconsin, until proven otherwise, and this might be the first step in that proof, until proven otherwise, Wisconsin is my team to beat. So we'll see what happens.
And wasn't one of Wisconsin's losses against Iowa as well?
Let's see here.
Or am I mistaken?
Yes.
No, they lost against Illinois.
No, they lost to Ohio State. They lost against Ohio State and Illinois.
That's right.
Yep, that is correct.
They beat Illinois. Okay, I was gonna say if Iowa had beaten both of them earlier, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was the unexpected loss. Was that Illinois debacle?
Yep, that was a bad loss for them. And then the last game we'll talk about is the Alabama-Auburn game, the Iron Bowl, another classic. This one is at home for Auburn. And obviously, Alabama's going to this game without Tua, their star quarterback, though the backup played they played a nobody last week and crushed them with some crazy score. But I'm not sure how much that indicates going into this game against a good, not great Auburn team. So I definitely think my money is definitely on Alabama. But if Auburn could find it in them to pull out the upset, of course, I would be overjoyed.
Oh, me too. Yep, me too. In fact, I'm going to go that route. I'm going to go for the upset. I'm going to say that Auburn wins in a close one. It's going to end up being like somewhat low scoring. So I'm going to say 24-21 Auburn wins.
I see. So you think if for Auburn to have a chance, their defense has to play well and slow Alabama down?
Yes, absolutely. And Alabama's not going to give up many points, but it's at Auburn, and Auburn's offense is a creative offense. They'll find some ways to score, or they'll get a turnover that will give them a short field, that sort of thing. But those are the kinds of things that Auburn's going to have to do. Otherwise, it could be a whitewash blowout for Alabama. But remember, the Georgia Auburn game was what, 21-14?
Something like that.
I think was the final on that. Yeah. So I'm going to say this one's going to be somewhat similar, but higher, a little bit higher scoring. I'm going to say 24-21 Auburn wins. Okay. Big upset. Because I desperately want Alabama not to be a part of the national championship discussion.
Yeah, I hear you there. I'm going to go with my against my heart and go with my brain here and go for an Alabama victory of 38-21. I think Auburn will keep it close, maybe even up through the third quarter. But just based on what I saw in that LSU game, it seems like once Alabama's offense gets going and their physicality of all their talent wears you down, then they just start being able to, score at will almost. So I think that's going to be the key to the game.
Even without Tua.
I mean, I haven't watched much of this other guy, so I don't know if he can make like the big passes, the long, deep passes that Tua can. So maybe that weapon may not be as there, but they still have their great running back who played really well in that LSU game and all their talented receivers and everything. So, as long as this quarterback isn't making bad mistakes and just doing the simple dink and dunk kind of thing, I think Alabama can still win that way.
I understand. I think you're probably on the right course there. I would, if I were a betting man, I'd probably be going your route, but I'm trying to be aggressively homeristic, if that's such a word.
Well, it is now. We made it one.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, and there are some other rivalry games: Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, Stanford, Florida State, some things like that. But those four that we meant, well, not our game, but the three others that we mentioned are the ones with the most national implications.
Right. Who does Baylor play?
Let me look that up real quick. I don't think they play anybody significant because I didn't write them down. They played against Texas and won this past weekend.
I know. Yeah. So Texas has got to be scratching their heads. I mean, they're like us. I mean, they got to be scratching their heads. This was a season that came in with lots of promise, right? They were expected. I mean, we were a fringe top 25 team, even though lots of people were picking us to maybe contend for the West championship. That just tells you how much of a disparity there was in talent between the West and the East and the Big Ten. But Texas was, if I remember correctly, borderline top 10.
Wow. That high.
Going into the season.
Yeah, well, I've seen some articles, and I guess you always see these, and not something to take too much stock in, but some kind of like, what has Tom Herman done so far in his time at Texas? Because he was kind of the golden boy coming home when he got hired,
right?
But he hasn't quite been able to turn it around yet.
Right, and part of that is he's got the roadblock of Oklahoma, but the problem is he's stumbling against other people, and that's got to stop.
Right. Baylor plays against Kansas. That's their last game.
Oh, okay. So that should be a victory for Baylor.
Should be a victory, which means so it would probably be most likely Baylor, Oklahoma for the
Big 12 championship.
Big 12 championship game. And we didn't mention it, but because Oregon lost, Utah is basically the Pac-12's only hope. So they play against Colorado. So if you're a Pac-12 fan, you're rooting for Utah big time in that game.
Right, and then Utah's still going to end up playing who? Because I can't remember. Our Utah's part of the North Division, if I remember correctly, aren't they? They're not part of the South. And Oregon was leading the North until they lost to Arizona State. And now I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Washington is back in the mix now because of that Oregon loss. I really don't. I'll have to do some research on the Pac-12 standings and such to figure out what are all the implications of what's going to go on out there.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Okay, Utah is in the South and Oregon is in the North.
Oh, okay. So is Oregon still leading the North?
Yes, because they're 9-2 overall, but they're still 7-1 in conference, which is what Utah is as well.
Okay. Got it. All right. So it yeah. So Oregon still got a chance to be the winner of that.
Right, but that would be if you're for the
Yeah.
Pac-12 though, that would be a bad scenario. Let's say
bad.
Utah win, both teams win, they both play each other in the Pac-12 championship game, and then Oregon wins, but they're a 2-loss conference champion. If the other games play out like we expect them to in the other conferences, there's no way they'll be in.
Right. And so the question becomes, if you end up with Oregon, a 2-loss Oregon team as the Pac-12 champion, and you have a 1-loss Oklahoma team, although no, Oklahoma's got 2 losses, don't they?
No,
Or they just
no,
have
just the
one.
one.
They're, but then they lost to Kansas State and they lost to Baylor, or they beat Baylor.
Right. They beat Baylor.
Didn't they? They came back and beat Baylor. Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Okay, so they only have 1 loss. So in Oklahoma, a 1-loss Oklahoma would be the debate against Alabama.
Yes.
And Alabama's going to win that, even if Big 12 champion. Alabama still wins that argument. If they don't do what the right thing is, which would be to argue that it doesn't matter, conference championship matters more, and put the conference champion in,
Right. Well,
as opposed to the team that doesn't play for the conference
right.
championship.
But that will be interesting if that's how it plays out, because that would be like when Ohio State got left out for Alabama a couple of years ago, because Ohio State had that ugly loss against somebody, and that was bad on their resume.
And if that plays out a second time, and again, similar scenario, a conference loss, okay, an in-conference loss, and Alabama gets in, even though they don't even play in their conference championship game, I'm telling you, it's going to create, at some point, those ADs will and commissioners will say enough's enough, and they'll convene a meeting, and they're gonna stop that shit, and they're gonna say, you know what, we're changing the formula in terms of where we prioritize things and how much weight we put on these conference championships, because you guys aren't doing what we wanted you to do. Because that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I've felt that way since this college football playoff started, that the conference championship should have mattered more than they're currently doing.
Right. Well, and I guess the writing was kind of in the sand when Alabama was 5 after their loss to LSU, because their strength of schedule is very bad. They hadn't really played many other teams of note aside from that LSU team.
Right.
But
they lost.
And they lost the game. Now it was only by 1 touchdown, which
I don't give a shit. They lost.
Well, right. Well, but you remember I made the point that, they got that pass play late that brought it from a 14-point game to a 7-point game. And although it didn't matter for the game at all, for perception, it may end up being important.
Oh, absolutely. See, and that's my point. My point is that if the people who represent on this committee, who are primarily working for the Power 5 conferences, okay, if they don't understand that those 5 conferences need to be viewed in a somewhat equitable way, if you're going to sit there and continue to argue that the SEC is the best, then screw you. I want the SEC to go and play their semi-pro type of football, and we'll just play with the other 4. I would be happy to go back to anything other than what we've got now, because what we've got now is a total farce, because it's allowing the people at ESPN and the perception gods to decide what's going on instead of the conferences, and recognizing that football's different in the different conferences, but that all those champions should be represented.
Right.
I'm tired of this.
Now, I will say, going with that perception thing, that I think the fact that they did lose Tua does hurt their chances, because the committee will, if we get into some scenario like that, they'd have to consider, well, this is they did that well against LSU with Tua in as quarterback. Now they don't have him, and if we're going to let them in, then we need to have like real confidence that we think that they can compete with these other great teams. And if they feel like losing Tua significantly hampers that for Alabama, then that may be what gets Oklahoma in over the edge. So,
see, and those kinds of decisions shouldn't be a part of it. Your Big 10 champion, your Big 12 champion, your SEC champion, your ACC champion, you should be in. That's why we've got to go to 8.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to go to 8, and then we can let Alabama in as one of the at-larges in the future years. And fine, then if they're winning a bunch of championships because they continue to do what they always do, which is lose a game during the season, and then find their way back into the playoff, and then decide to play their best football then. So,
yep.
Anyway.
All right. Well, we'll see how it all plays out. There'll be a lot to talk about next week, and hopefully I will have your brother AJ on as well. I'll be going to see him for Thanksgiving here. So that should be fun. And I'm hoping that we'll be talking about our 6-6 bowl eligible season at that point. So
that's right.
We will see.
That would be so cool.
We will see.
I would be one happy camper if that were true.
That'd be a nice birthday gift, huh?
Yes, it would be. All righty, buddy.
All right. Well, I hope you all out there enjoyed listening to this podcast. You can find us online under Apple Podcasts if you search for College Football Throwdown. We're also on iTunes, Podomatic. You can leave us a comment, rate us, review us. We always like hearing back from the fans. And you can reach out to us at huskerpete13@gmail.com if you have a question you'd like us to read on the podcast. So thank you all out there for listening, and thank you, Dad, for joining me again for this episode. And until next week, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.